Okie dokie, so we're getting ready to put the Kickstart assembly onto the main shaft, and we'll be assembling that on camera, and then we do the nut up. That does up to 45 foot-pounds, and that serves to hold the main shaft in place. Obviously, at the moment, there's a fair bit of play, but when that nut and this assembly is all on, then that main shaft is held in exactly the right place and can't move. And that's why that nut is done up so tight, and it's got a locking washer, because if this does start moving sideways, then all the gears are going to start meshing with each other in the wrong order, and the gearbox is going to lock up, and it's not very nice. So that's why that nut is done up so tight. But in order to do that up tight, we need to find a way of locking the main shaft, because obviously, it's just going to turn. So what we're going to do is just sort of ignore the rear chain for a minute. I've got that because I'm ready to put the actual rear gearbox sprocket on in a minute. But I've put the new Woodruff key back in the main shaft, and we have a new clutch hub because the other one's worn out. We'll cover that. We'll cover that in a minute when we do the clutch. So that's just going on loosely, so that we can then fit the clutch hub locking tool, trying to hold that so you can see the damn thing, which are available from sort of specialist Triumph suppliers. So that's going to lock on there. That sits against the idler shaft for the oil pump, and that therefore locks the main shaft so that we can do the that nut up. So that's what we're going to do. We've got our torque wrench, we've got our sockets, we've got Loctite, because as well as it being locked, we're going to use Loctite because obviously we really don't want this nut coming off the main shaft. And also, to be honest, these I never trust these repro locking washers that much. You see the little tang there, it's not very big. These are the ears that lock onto the nut, but this is the tang that then locks on to the sort of goes in these grooves, but it's not very deep. And I always worry about that snapping off. And I've had it before where it looks like this has been locked because the ears are bent over the nut, but the little tang that then goes on the splines has been snapped off. So it looks like the thing's locked up. Oh yeah, all the ears are bent over, but of course it's not actually locked the other side, so that can just undo with the nut. So always use Loctite. In fact, I think that's medium strength. I'm just thinking I'm probably going to use high strength thread locker on that one, just to be on the safe side. Okay, so getting ready to fit the Kickstart. So there's a little spacer goes on, and then I'm just putting a little bit of oil on these, and there's the sleeve, and then the spring goes over the sleeve, and the ratchet, which is spring loaded, and the ratchet cover plate fits on the spline, so I just push that back on the, I'll probably have to push it from the other end as well, because as I push that in, I just want to try and get it to engage with the splines. But what happens is, because it's not fixed yet, as you push it back, it just pushes the main shaft rather than going onto the splines. Now push it onto the splines a bit, just enough to hold it. Obviously, when we do the nut up, that will fully pull it onto the splines. Just clean any oil off the thread, so I don't want oil on the thread, because obviously I want that to lock. And then I'm going to put the lock tab on. As we do it up, as I say, we've got to make sure that the tang sort of goes in the splines and doesn't accidentally come undone and sit on top of them. And I've got my high thread lock, and I'll put that on high strength. Yeah. And then we'll get the nut itself on. It's only a slim nut. We've locked the other side of the gear, other side with the locking tool on the clutch hub. Let's get this on. Yeah, that's seated properly. Okay. And as you do it up, it's pulling that tight. I'll get my torque wrench onto 45. It's between 40 and 45 the torque on this, but obviously I always do it up to the tightest. Oh, I think someone's coming home. Doorbell's going to go. Be warned. There it goes. This is taking a lot of tightening up because what it's doing is it's pulling the ratchet. You know, it's pulling it tight. Getting there now a bit. A little bit more. There we go, 45. We've got the lock tight. We've got that on, and so now that you know, there's a little bit of end float, which is what you want, obviously, but there's no way that can move. Let's see if I can do this with pliers. Yeah, it's a bit of a big nut, but I can just get the pliers on it, and then I'll do the other one as well. Damn. Press the lock tab and not my thumb. There, and I'll just finish it off with a little hammer. Just make sure they're nice and tight, holding the nut. Like anything, if it's tight, it's not going to move. As soon as there's any play in it, if you allow it to have any play, then it'll come loose. Right, so there we go. And there's the ratchet, which means that, you know, when you kickstart it when the engine starts, the ratchet goes round, and that's why you can leave the kickstart down and then slowly put it up. Obviously it engages while you kick, and then when the engine starts, that just goes round until you put the kickstart back up. Obviously if it backfires, then I'm afraid the ratchet doesn't help you, and the kickstart lever comes back up rather rapidly together with your leg. So, but that means you can kick it, and once it's started, you know, it just slips. Okay, yeah, that's done. What I'll do next is we'll change around and we'll get the gearbox sprocket on if we can. So that's the nut on the end of the main shaft, a kickstart nut, as I call it.